The focus of this presentation will be the key principles to consider in building design and construction of a fire-resilient home. In our current climate, large disastrous wildfires are part of nature and inevitable. The more we as humans encroach upon the interface between the urban and the natural landscape, the harder it is to prevent wildfires from spreading. The best design solutions for fire resiliency look at the project holistically, taking into account the site, access, location, construction, landscape, and materials. In our limited time today, I'm going to do my best to touch on each of these topics throughout projects Plant Prefab is currently designing and building. In case you are not aware, off-site builders like Plant Prefab must build to the same code standards as on-site contractors. Every project Plant Prefab builds in the factory must be built to meet California State Building Code and any supplementary amendment which may be included by the local municipality. Chapter 7A of the CBC specifically addresses all new construction in any fire hazard severity zone in wildland urban interface areas, or WUI. This WUI classification prescribes a set of conditions that architects and builders have to adhere to, which is to reduce the spread of fire from source to dwelling, and then from dwelling to dwelling, and to offer some protection that if the home catches on fire, building occupants have time to escape. So while a lot of people think of building a fireproof home, this is actually not quite achievable unless you want to live in a windowless cement bunker underground. But there are multiple areas that can be designed to mitigate and reduce the likelihood of a fire coming onto your property or inside your home. Let's start by looking at the design of the home itself. On the screen now is a site plan for a fire rebuild in Malibu on Bush Drive. I'm going to walk you through the planning and strategies that go into designing a fire-resilient home. The original home and much of the landscaping on this lot was lost during the Woolsey fire in 2018. The owners came to us with a request to design and build the most fire-resistant home possible for them. The home is only one portion of good fire-resistant design. Being that this is a large lot, equal value must be given to both the home design and the site design, because any vegetation that grows on this lot affects the neighboring lots. Overgrown vegetation between the yards is an invitation to the spread of a wildfire. Particular placement of hardscape and softscape is key to creating a strong fire-resilient home. The new home maintains the original footprint, but with Ray Cappy's design, the previous traditional one was transformed into a true California classic with a strong connection of the exterior to the interior. During a wildfire, homes can be threatened by wind-blown embers, radiant heat, and direct flame contact. In wildfire events, 60 to 90% of home loss is due to embers. Embers are important because of what they can do directly, like ignite materials inside a home by entering through a vent, or indirectly, like igniting a wood pile close to the home. The defensible space is the area around your home that can literally be used to defend against fires. It is divided up into 3 distinct zones, from 0 to 100 feet away from the structure. After designing the home, the consideration of this defensible space, the buffer zone, is critical to the overall project strategy. Zone 1 is the first 5 feet away from the home. The objective of this zone is to keep it ember resistant, free from plants and debris. For this project, we extended that zone to 20 feet with a mix of concrete patios and gravel. This has the effect of creating a moat around the perimeter of the home of hard surfaces that are non-combustible. Zone 1 extends 5 to 30 feet. The objective of this zone is to reduce the spread of any fires from vegetation into Zone 0. By extending the concrete patios into this zone, we are further reducing the potential spread of fire or embers. Bordering the patio areas are some raised concrete planter boxes that are designed for plants like aloes, ceanothus, and fuchsia, which tend to be high moisture content plants when well maintained. And finally, Zone 3, 30 to 100 feet away, is considered the reduced fuel zone. For this particular project, there's no plan for landscape at this time in this area, with the exception of some ground cover and more gravel. The roof can be one of the most vulnerable parts of a home to a wildfire. It is important to design this so it is free from debris and has a Class A rating. Any wind-driven embers can touch down on debris on the roof and start a fire. Wind-driven embers can also get into vents and actually start a fire from inside the home. The roof here is flat with a gentle 2% slope, and it is made up of several layers that contribute to give the overall assembly the Class A rating. This consists of fire-rated sheathing and a dense fiberglass layer. One way to help maintain a clean roof is to not have gutters. This home is designed with internal roof drains instead, so water from the roof is directed to the roof drains, which then route the water through the home and ultimately into the yard into specified planted areas. The roof drains are covered with a metal mesh and periodically checked to ensure that they remain free and clear from debris. Eventually, as you see in the model, nearly the entire roof will be covered with solar panels. These roof overhangs and decks that you see here in this image are also vulnerable areas to fire. Open overhangs with exposed roof framing create the possibility for heat to build up between the framed members. Closed, solid overhangs are preferred, as you see here, and all the overhangs are stucco, smooth, and non-combustible. And because this is a flat roof, there is no need to vent the overhangs. This is important as every vent, unless covered with a tight weave metal mesh, is an area vulnerable to ember intrusion. Material choices have a big impact on the fire resilience of your home. If the siding ignites, a fire can penetrate the stud cavity and work its way into the home through any air gap, window, or even a dryer vent. By using stucco, a non-combustible material, we are adding another defense layer against embers and potential fire spreading. The next layer of defense beyond the exterior stucco is the framing. In this home, the major structural elements, the columns and beams of the modules, will be HSS tube steel. The remaining infill framing members are a mix of engineered and dimensional lumber. In other words, the overall superstructure is steel, which is more fire resistant than wood. The open trellis areas that you see around the home will be constructed with the same overall palette, a combination of stucco and exposed structural steel for the posts and horizontal members. Windows and glass doors are also vulnerable to fire. If the frame ignites or deforms, or if the glass breaks, embers are now able to enter the home. Multi-paned insulated glass that is tempered creates an additional barrier to ember intrusion. Tempered glass is 3 to 4 times more resistant to high heat than annealed glass. All the windows and doors in this home are insulated and tempered to assist in fire resistance, and the railings at the deck are tempered structural glass. As stated earlier, all vents and openings in the home to the exterior become potential points of entry for embers. For this reason, it was decided to not vent the crawl space the traditional way through the foundation wall. Instead of vents through the concrete foundation, this home has a mechanically vented crawl space, so no debris or embers can enter, and the only access into this area is through the inside of the home. Fire suppression within the home is now a code requirement. This home is designed with an interior fire sprinkler system. Additionally, multiple hoses and hose bibs will be installed throughout the property and the exterior decks, that will be long enough to reach the top of the house, so in the event of a localized fire, the homeowners can act swiftly to try and control it. Back to Zone 0 in our ember-free area, the placement of trash and recycling can make a big impact. By locating those items inside the garage, we are reinforcing the concept of a debris and clutter-free zone around the home. And lastly, giving free and clear access to your property to the fire department is a code requirement. Because of the size of this lot, it was easy to create a driveway that has 2 means of entry, which could allow the fire department to get onto the property from either side. The radius can accommodate the truck to be able to enter one end and exit the other. This ensures the 150-foot reach for their hoses is met. The concrete moat that we've created around the home also ensures a clear path at all times for this access when needed. Now let's pivot and talk about what needs to be done when you're actually building the home. Currently, we don't have any WUI projects under construction in the factory. We have many fire rebuilds, like the SketchUp model I shared with you earlier, that are in various stages of permitting. So instead, I wanted to draw a parallel between cold climate construction and fire resilient construction in the sense that both need to keep the elements out. Obviously, fire, we're keeping embers out. Cold climate, we're keeping out cold weather, air. So our tight sealing of that exterior wall assembly is super critical. We're sealing doors and windows. We're sealing all the penetrations just like we did with fire resiliency. This particular module, we're showing exterior siding. It does get installed when it's appropriate based on the design. We're using the zip system as our exterior sheathing and weather barrier. In the instance of a fire rebuild, that would be replaced with LP flame block. You can see here another closed soffit on the roof. Now we're going to go inside. This is a ground floor module. This is a mud room, so they've got some sink, laundry down here. We're now standardized on type X 5/8 drywall everywhere on the interior, whether it's a fire rebuild or not. We think that's really important to the overall design. We're sealing all the windows, you can see here in this image. And then lastly, what you'll see is the finished product. There's a lot that you're not seeing in this. I know that was a lot to cover in one short period of time, so I've tried to summarize all the key points here in one slide. Not all architects and builders working in California are familiar with all of these principles, so if you're working on a home design, I strongly encourage you to consult with an architect and builder like Prefab, who does have extensive experience designing and building fire resilient homes.